Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It is Mike's Talks and Thoughts here. Back again with another video for you guys, and today I'm going to be doing my Dexter villains ranking. Now I have 12 different villains here ranking for you guys. Some seasons have multiple, like season 2 and season 7. Others just have one, like season 1 and season 4. But yeah, these are like the 12 main antagonists or villains that Dexter faces throughout the entire course of the show, the 8 seasons and New Blood as well. So yeah, let's get started here. So coming in here at number 12, we have the Skinner. Now the Skinner, of course, doesn't really have a lot of connection much with Dexter. I really do think it's pretty cool though how you see him up in the tree, and that kind of gives a hint that he might be involved more in something. But of course, his story mainly is him following and trying to catch Freebo because, Freebo owes him a lot of money, and he ends up doing these kills. And then eventually when Dexter and Miguel have a falling out, Miguel hires the Skinner to go and kill Dexter. And of course, the confrontation between them when the Skinner has Dexter strapped onto that table, and Dexter, with his senses finds a way to get out of it, turns and he hurts his arm, and he ends up snapping and breaking his neck. And yeah, that was just a great scene. So the Skinner here comes in at number 12 on the list. I wish we would have gotten a lot more about his backstory, or just more about him other than just, he's doing this because of Freebo. So yeah, number 12, the Skinner. Coming in here at number 11 here, we have one of the villains who doesn't come into play until the later seasons, and that's going to be Maria Laguerta from season 7. At the end of season 6, she ends up finding a blood slide and, knows that was the Bay Harbor Butchers thing, and she starts looking back into that case, and, she kind of always felt in her heart that it wasn't James Doakes, or she didn't want to believe it was Doakes, and then eventually finds, all this evidence against Dexter, and then takes him into the station, and eventually she tries to do a tactic where one of the people who had killed Dexter's mom, she lets out of prison after 40 years and expects him to kill him, and he almost does, and then he realizes that this is a trap, and of course eventually gets to her. And then the scene with her, Deb, and Dexter is really great, of course, with the decision that Deb has to make. Really, really great scene. And LaGuerta comes in at number 11 though. Pretty interesting person, but was really not that high up on the villains ranking. Next here at number 10, we have Oliver Sakson, the brain surgeon. Now, this is someone who we get a little bit more of a background story with. Dexter is working with Evelyn at this time. Evelyn Vogel is someone who we find out was the one who kind of helped Harry come up with the code, and you find out about him being her son, and then the events that happened with him when he was younger, which kind of turned him into what he kind of is, and how he straps his villains down to sort of a table, and does all this stuff, leaves the brain out as like his calling card. But I just feel like season 8 is one of the reasons why this guy isn't up higher on the list. The storylines and the writing wasn't really great at all for season 8. But he definitely has more of a backstory, and the confrontation between Dexter and Oliver Sakson at the end, when Dexter stabs him with the pen after what happened with him and Deb, is really, really great. So coming in at number 10, we have Oliver Sakson. Coming in here at number 9, we have one of the villains from season 2, and that is going to be Lila. Now Lila, she was okay, sort of person, of course. She and Dexter meet because Dexter's trying to cover up for Rita at the time by going to these AA meetings, and he meets Lila there. Lila's his sponsor, and Lila kind of gets let in on the killings that happens with Dexter, with Dexter going and killing one of the men who had murdered his mom, of course, and then the scene, of course, with Lila taking Aster and Cody and Dexter and leaving them in a room and setting it on fire. And Dexter finding a way to get out of that was awesome. And then, of course, gets his revenge flying to London and tracking down Lila and killing her. So that was really, really satisfying. You know, someone from the earlier seasons who definitely had a lot more character growth throughout and a lot better writing to her character. Of course, another one, wish we would have known a little bit more on her backstory, but solid person, comes in at number 9 on my Dexter villains list. Coming in here at number 8, we have the season 6 villain from Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer. Travis Marshall, very interesting sort of villain. He's recreating these murders from the Book of Revelation or the end of the world. I definitely feel like it would have been a lot more interesting if they didn't do the twist with Geller. If they would have kept Geller and Travis Marshall together as a team, I feel like they would have been a lot more fierce and a lot more feared. I just feel like that would have been interesting, how Geller is really training him to be this sort of monster. But, you find out later that the twist with Geller, of course. But, I really love the showdown with Dexter and Travis Marshall, at the very end when, he's going to get Harrison and then Dexter ends up faking the syringe and ends up taking Travis back to the church where he's held headquarters pretty much all season long. And, of course, the shocking reveal at the end with Deb. It's really, really great. I think he's a solid villain. Of course, I think he would have benefited if he was an earlier season villain with better writing. But, something to him. He has a background for why he's doing these kills. So, yeah, coming in at number 8, the Doomsday Killer. Coming in here at number 7, we have the other Season 7 villain, and that is going to be Isaac Sirko here. Now, I know a lot of people really like Isaac a lot more than me. I do really like him, but, he's a pretty interesting character. He's very suave and charismatic, and, he's a Ukrainian sort of mobster, sort of. And, you find out a lot about this backstory of why Victor meant so much to him, and the conversation with him and Dexter at the bar. Such a great scene. They kind of end up starting working together at points. And then, of course, the confrontation with Isaac, Dexter, and George ultimately leads to the demise of Isaac. And, Isaac was just such a solid villain and something refreshing for those later seasons. Coming in here at number 6, we have Miguel Prado. Like I mentioned earlier, Miguel and the Skinner sort of build a relationship later with them in the season, but mainly the relationship that he has is with Dexter. Dexter is sort of getting closer with Miguel when they kind of connect over Freebo, the killing of Freebo. But of course, Miguel at the time does not know about Dexter killing his brother. And then when they sort of had a falling out with Miguel and Dexter, you find Dexter, he puts Miguel on the table and he tells him about his brother, and Miguel goes berserk. And then he is trying to stage this as the Skinner doing it. So he doesn't dispose of the body like he usually does. He leaves it out in the open for everyone to find, with the Skinner's MO to take attention off of him. So, yeah, Miguel, a really great villain. Jimmy Smith's a great actor. Does a really great job here. So coming in at number 6, we have Miguel. Coming in here at number 5, we have the Season 5 group, the Barrel Girl Gang. Now, I really, really like this backstory of this group. You found out at the very end of the season that how they all met and how they're all connected back to this Camp Jordan. And, you find out about Jordan Chase and how his big transformation. I really find it interesting. I really like the Dexter and Lumen relationship. At first you see Dexter killing the first of them, and then Lumen does the second, and then they kind of team up for the last ones. I really find all the members interesting, how they kind of bounce and balance off of each other. Cole and Jordan are probably my 2 favorites of the 5, but it's interesting how they take these women. They're white, blonde-haired girls, so that's kind of their motive. And then, of course, you find out about Jordan Chase's sort of lover, that plays a big part in the ending of the story. So yeah, Barrel Girl Gang comes in here at number 5 on my list. Surprise, motherfucker. Coming in here at number 4, we have James Doakes. Now, of course, Doakes is a big sort of villain for Dexter, even from the start of the series, but mainly season 2, of course, is where it really comes out with Doakes. I think that him and Dexter, these two larger than life characters, have such great interactions on screen. The boat scene in season 2 is really great, and Dexter's trying to frame Doakes at this time for the Bay Harbor Butcher case, and that is a very intriguing story. And of course, how the meetup between Dexter and Doakes at the boat is really great. And then some of the best dialogue scenes come from Dexter and Doakes when he, of course, puts Doakes in the cage. And then Doakes ultimately sees what Dexter does when Dexter brings one of his victims back into the cabin. And I just think that he's such a great villain for Dexter, someone who can sort of think like Dexter, the police sort of side to it. Very interesting character, one of the best in the entire show. So coming in here at number 4 for the Dexter villains is James Doakes. Coming in here at number 3, we have the new villain from the new season of New Blood, Caldwell. Now, Kurt is very interesting in the fact that a lot of the really good Dexter villains, especially ones that are going to be up higher on this list, are based on real killers. A guy named Robert Hansen was someone who did very similar things, where he hunted down women, did the same thing, captured them, and let them free, and he would hunt them, kind of like what Kurt does. Kurt the Runaway Killer, of course. I really like how he's been doing this for 25 years. Gives it a lot more backstory. I wish the reveal of why Iris, the first victim, would have been a lot better, but they did do a great job. And when he's on the table and he talks about how he's trying to preserve them, he's trying to save them from the trauma that they experienced from his dad, but then you eventually find out this is more of him having power and him taking control, and it's really great. Kurt is such a nice, refreshing villain for the series. After the later seasons, the earlier season villains definitely shined high, and Kurt comes in and does a great job. His trophy room reveal is one of the best. It's probably the best trophy reveal of any of the villains. So yeah, Kurt comes in here at number 3 on my list. Coming in here at number 2, we have the season 1 villain, the Ice Truck Killer. Now, what a great villain, loosely based on the first book of Dexter. And, you found even in the first episode how these characters are both connected with each other. He knows stuff about Dexter's past, and he's wondering about how he knows all this stuff. And then eventually the big reveal, and them at the old house is really great. And how Deb gets involved in this too, so it's kind of a mix of everything. And, he's a very unique person, with these kills where, Dexter really likes blood, and he takes the blood away, and then in one of the episodes he takes all of the blood and puts it all in this room, and Dexter just kind of loses his mind because of it. Just very calculated villain, and I like the way it ends for him, how Dexter and him have this really great conversation. He wants to have him kill Deb, and eventually, turns his back on him and stages it as a suicide. So, what started it all, what got everyone into Dexter, the Ice Truck Killer still remains one of the best villains of the entire series. But coming in here at number 1, another villain based on a true life serial killer, the Trinity Killer. And Trinity is easily number 1 on this list, based off of the BTK Killer. Trinity, he has such a extensive backstory. He's been doing this for 30 years. He goes to all these different towns with house building, or the 4 houses being his sort of disguise, being able to go and track down all of these people in the time that he's at these cities. And Frank Lundy builds a great case against him. That is one of the best aspects of the Trinity Killer season. And the showdown between him and Dexter is great. You find out about him being the Trinity Killer because he kills in 3s, and then eventually you find out he kills in 4s. He starts off with a 10-year-old boy, which you find that out the later in the season. And then, of course, the woman in the bathtub, the mother who falls to her death, and then the bludgeoning of a father. And they all represent different people in his family. The little boy represents Arthur himself. The girl in the bathtub represents his sister, who he still has her ashes. And the scene with him and Dexter in the bathtub talking about the whole traumatic experience of him finding his sister. Really, really interesting. The mother represents his own mother, and then the father represents his father, and kind of his hatred towards all of them and what they did. So, such a really great backstory, great character. One of the best in the Dexter universe, and one of my favorite villains ever from any show. So coming in number 1, the Trinity Killer, and John Lithgow, such a great actor who plays him. Couldn't have thought of anyone better. And his callback in New Blood, with him talking to Harrison saying, "Daddy will be home soon." Really, really great. Wish we would have seen more of him in New Blood, but that was a great scene. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and comment down below some of your favorite Dexter villains, or ranking them from 12 to 1 like I did, or even leaving some of the smaller villains that he was killing just in one-off episodes. Really like to see that. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and peace out.